Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Tigray, and today I'm joined by Yosief Ghebrehiwet. I think most of my listeners will know you, Yosef, but just to be safe, Yosef is a writer, political analyst, especially for the Horn of Africa, and he has been our guest a number of times, so he's not a stranger. And today we thought we would talk a little bit about Tigray, the extremely complex situation in Tigray, and we're going to focus on the Pretoria Agreement and specifically on the DDR aspect of it, on the disarmament, what was it? Disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration. And Yusuf is going to help us make sense of what is happening. So, thank you for taking the time today, Yusuf.
Thank you, Talai. Have come back after a long time, I guess. So, and thanks for our listeners too.
Well, thank you. Well, it's good that you mentioned you are back after a long time. A lot of people have been texting me to invite you on to come on because I think they look to you. A lot of people when they try to understand politics in Ethiopia, Eritrea, and the Horn of Africa, and when a lot of complex things happen, you help them make sense of the complex events. So a lot of people have a lot of admiration for you. And I have been getting floods of messages for you to come on. So thank you for taking the time. I think we're going to go directly
Okay.
into the DDR aspect. I think that the first thing that many people scratching their heads about it, what did they mean when they wrote the DDR? What was their understanding then? By they, I mean the US government, the Ethiopian government, the TPLF, the signatories, I think we called them. What was the understanding then when they said DDR? What was their conception of it?
Well, we can look at what DDR stands for, the way you have started it, disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration. That's, what's officially known as. The question is, how do they understand it? Now, for example, to me, to go straight to the crux of the matter, the aim is not simply disarmament, the disarmament of the army. Instead of that, I believe that at least the powers to be, like the US and Abiy himself, the government himself, they have understood it as the disarmament of Tigray itself, not simply the disarmament of the army. What does that mean? We could look that better if you look at the demobilization. In demobilization, it's the same thing. It's not simply demobilizing the army. It wouldn't make sense, for example, if you demobilize the army and if anything arises, that quickly Tigray mobilizes itself again back to the war footing, So what they are aiming at is not simply demobilizing the TDF, but they are aiming at decapacitating the Tigrayan ability, the ability of Tigray as a society in general, on how to make it impossible for them to mobilize again, to mobilize back again. So we are looking at, they are not simply aiming at the army, but also at the societal level. The demobilization goes further at the societal level. I believe many people, especially in Tigray, have understood the idea of what demobilization means, especially the ones who are wary of the TDF. I have heard from some opposition groups, for example, they keep saying it's better if the TDF disarms the way it is now, as it is allying itself with TPLF, and it has been against us. We should be wary of military role. If you have heard their latest press release, they accuse the military of trying to take over. So in light of all this, when I ask them, not only the opposition but others also, when I ask them, but how is Tigray going to protect itself if that is the case? And they keep always telling me that you don't know. Tigray can quickly mobilize itself. That's their bottom line, you know. That's what they tell me. First, of course, Tigray quickly mobilized itself during the past war, but at what cost? We have to ask at what cost. Had Tigray been prepared? You have always been accusing the president, that he has entered this war without undertaking the necessary preparations. For example, it's the same thing. Nobody wants Tigray to go, even if that is possible. Nobody wants Tigray to go through the same process. So the whole idea that they want is, how are they trying? Now, the question that should be asked is not how are they trying to demobilize the TDF or the army, but how are they trying to demobilize the entire Tigray or the population of Tigray? That is the question that we should ask. I believe what's going on right now in Tigray, for example, the encirclement of Tigray, it has never been lifted. Tigray is still under siege, by all the genocidal forces, Eritrea, Amhara, and Ethiopia itself. So all these forces are still intact there. Now, the genocide also, although it's in a different form, it has been going on for a while. In different forms, I mean, famine, disease, and migration, for example. In the IDPs, they have nowhere to go. All of this is contributing to the weakening of Tigray. The encirclement is aimed at the weakening of Tigray and weakening it at the level of its mobilization. At the level of its mobilization. For example, the idea of disintegrating Tigray. For example, the idea of having the referendum on the western part of Tigray, on Raya and Tsalemti, is aimed. Eventually, it's meant to be the demobilization of Tigray at a societal level, So always when they talk about, DDR, of course, the first thing that we look at is, of course, the army. But that is the beginning. Once the army is disarmed, and once the arms itself are taken out from Tigray, then, of course, the demobilization of Tigray as a society starts. They want to make sure, especially Abiy wants to make sure that Tigray never rises again. So we have that, even the idea of reintegration. Think about the idea of reintegration, How is it possible for Tigray to reintegrate 250,000 soldiers right now? It cannot. It's not a society that can absorb that much of soldiers into the civil society at this point in time. It doesn't have the resources, it doesn't have the safety, and all the rest, that goes with it. So here is the idea that a DDR in the sense that we know it could be conducted at this point. To me, it's just a joke. So we have to look at it broadly, what it means. For example, the US wouldn't give a damn. Wouldn't have gone back, and not only the US, the EU wouldn't have gone back and forth to Mekelle with a single message all the time that is DDR, had they not been aiming at, we have to disarm Tigray to a point where it doesn't become a threat to the stability of Ethiopia. That's the whole idea. So they are not going to stop at demobilizing the army. So we have to understand it that way. That's what I believe.
Well, one issue closely related to the DDR clause of the agreement is the issue of occupied territories of Tigray, Western Tigray and Southern Tigray. And when the Pretoria Agreement became public, one of the things that a lot of people were shocked about was the DDR was, according to the Pretoria Agreement, was to happen while the Amhara and Eritrean forces were still in Tigray. And people couldn't make sense of that. How did that serious people could come to think that this is a sensible thing to do? But it became, they clarified that in the Nairobi Agreement, where they clearly said that the DDR was to happen in parallel with Eritrean and Amharan forces leaving Tigray. And that was a reasonable thing to say. And a lot of people were reassured that the DDR thing, after all, is a sensible thing. But as you will have noticed, the position of Abiy Ahmed, and it looks like the position of the Tigray interim government as well, and the position of the opposition parties as well, I have to say, seems to be that the first thing we should do is resettle people while Eritrea and Amhara continue to occupy Western Tigray. And then, I mean, we could even do DDR and still let's focus on resettling people. That seems to be the mainstream political view in Tigray. And how do you explain that? Why is it that the Tigray government has come round to the view that resettling people while the Amhara and Eritrean forces are still occupying those areas is a sensible thing to do?
All right, okay. So in general, you know, the Pretoria Agreement says that whatever DDR is being conducted, it should be done with the safety of the returnees or whoever is involved in that time into consideration. So that's the primary thing. Safety has been the primary idea. DDR has been connected with safety. Now, what has eventually happened is these two have been dissociated of one another. Exactly the way you have been saying. For example, taking back the IDPs to Raya and Tsallemte as it has been done so far. We have no, I mean, we know already the result every day, you know, day to day. There has been news of how about 15 Tigrayans have been killed in Tsallemte, some kind of displacements going on, some even returning back to Shire. So the whole idea is, why did the Tigray government? And when I talk about Tigray government right now, I'm not excluding the TPLF. You know, it's part and parcel of the Tigray government. Both of them have been working in this thing. So why did they accept this? Why did they accept for Abiy? You could easily understand why he wanted it that way. First, what he wanted to do is he wanted to appear. He wanted to appear that he is executing the Pretoria Agreement according to the liking of all the parties involved in there, you know. And the problem is with the Tigrayan government, which has accommodated him in doing that. For example, instead of keeping it a two-way process. I mean, a bilateral thing, you know, between Ethiopia and Tigray. It included the Amharas in the table of negotiation. That has been done, I mean, a while ago, and the result is what we have seen now. That's part of it. But now the whole issue is, why did they invert it? This is the question that you have asked. Why did they keep inverting the process? Is it possible? All that we could ask is it doable the way they have agreed? For Abiy, it's clear. First, he wanted to give the impression that he's doing something, and he did succeed in that because the US and the AU went along with him. So he hasn't a problem with that, and the Tigrayan government accommodated him in all ways possible. So he achieved that. But then he said, after that, referendum will be conducted. Now, all that he is aiming at is if he is going to expel the settlers, the Amhara settlers from those areas, then the likelihood that the referendum will succeed according to his liking would be almost zero. So knowing that he has planned it perfectly. Now, why did the Tigrayan government fall into this? That's the question that we have now. Now, before we answer the why, let's look if it's doable, if this is doable or not. Now, think about this. the first thing, for example, there are more than 1 million IDPs in Tigray. Everybody knows that, and all of these are to be returned. The first thing that they will have to have is their safety. In all of these places, especially in the western part of Tigray, in Humara and the Humara area, where the greatest ethnic cleansing have been conducted, more than 1 million have been expelled from that area, and where a huge genocide also has been conducted in that area, where terrorizing the Tigrayan population has been going on up to now. You know, the idea of taking those 1 million, imagine taking those 1 million while what is his name? Zodi or who? What's forgive me? I keep forgetting his name. The leader of the Amhara group,
I think
Zodi Dammaqe, handing all of these people to Zodi Dammaqe. What kind of safety would these people get? Now we are talking about the Amhara administration, with its security apparatus. It has not only put so many Tigrayans in prisons, you know, it has killed so many of them, it has displaced them. And then there is also this Amharanization program that has been going on, both in schools and outside. All of this has been done by the Amhara administration. Is there anything that you could, could you provide safety while the Amhara administration is intact there? Then there are various armed groups. One is, of course, the extension of Fano that still exists over there. And then there is the Amhara settlers that have also, many of whom have been armed. And there are also some local groups, disgruntled local groups that have also allied themselves with them. Now, it's among all of this that they are going to put your settlers, the IDPs. And the third one, the elephant in the room, to me is much more important, is the Ethiopian army itself. The Ethiopian army is supposed to stay there to pacify the condition and to look after the safety of the refugees or the IDPs. But we have seen that at best, what it could do is it would be unwilling to cooperate, and at worst, it would collaborate with the Amhara forces over there. So, in light of all of this, you know, how is it possible for the Tigrayan government to take tens of thousands of refugees and drop them and come back? This is exactly what it has done in these two areas. Number one is safety. But safety also is not only, that's why we say, unless the Tigrayan administration comes first, you know, is installed first, then the idea of safety is absurd. The second thing is, these people have properties, a lot of properties over there. They had, at least they had before when they were living over there. They had a lot of lands that they used to for agricultural purposes. They have their own homesteads, their own farm equipments, their livestock. And those people who used to live in urban areas also, they have their own houses, they have had their own businesses, their own jobs, and all of that. Now, there had to be a smooth return of all of this to the IDPs. How is that possible? How could that be done while the Amhara administration or the Amhara forces are entrenched in there? How is it possible that this thing could be done safely? It's almost an impossible task. The next one is even when you take them there, you know, because they have nothing, they will require a lot of aid, these people. For example, they will require shelter because many of them, the settlers have to be expelled. So there will be a time of transition that they will need to be sheltered. And then there is also the fact that many of their houses have been destroyed, burned down. Many villages have been burned down. And so they have to have some kind of shelter to stay. They will need food, nutrition. The farmers will need seeds, fertilizers. They will need also those people who had were living on livestock. That area, the western area, is famous for its livestock. They will have to be, I mean, those livestock, they have to be bought and given to them. So it's a long process. They will need not only fertilizers and food, but also medicine, money, and all of that. So there has to be somebody at the administrative level in that area that has the goodwill, to conduct all of these kinds of things. Do you, expect the Amhara government over there, the Amhara, groups over there will provide all the safety that we have been asking? They will give them back their property, and then we'll aid them to, at the beginning of as their resettlement. None of that would happen. Why is it then? It drives me crazy to think, why is then that people like Getachew and the Debrecen think that just by putting them there, then we'll do the rest. That's what they keep telling, then we'll differ, then we'll take a different road than Abiy. Abiy is for referendum. We are not for referendum. So that way they will keep it safe, that they are not selling out, So, but we'll go for referendum. So at this point, though, since we and Abiy agree for the resettlement of the IDPs, we'll do it now, which is totally absurd to me. So that's one. But that's not all the things that there is to it, because when we talk about safety, we are not only talking about the safety of the IDPs. We are also taking into consideration safety of the Tigrayan population in general. So when we are talking about DDR, there shouldn't be DDR without ensuring the safety of the IDPs back home. That's with the administration. That's one. But the second one is, how about look at the entire area. Look at the entire area. Now the Fanos, if you look at the Fanos, they have been growing exponentially. And now there are probably 100,000 of them scattered throughout the Amhara area. So much so that certain parts of areas, I'm afraid that eventually, if the military, the Ethiopian military keeps withdrawing from certain areas, it will be the northernmost areas. The northernmost areas, like the areas around Gondar and Waldia, that area, that is the Raya area. That will be the first areas that the Ethiopian army will leave. In that case, the danger to Tigray would be, great. Now, what we are seeing is on the one side, the Fano growing in leaps and bounds, and then there is Eritrea on the other side, which is also allied to the Fanos, which is also arming itself to the teeth, and at the same time, it's digging trenches all over the place. It has already put almost the entire adult population, the male adult population, in the trenches, because it's paranoid that for what it has done, and with Abiy claiming Asab and all of that. And then it's also Eritrea is also frantically looking for allies from Egypt, Somalia, even Djibouti. Today I heard that it's trying to patch up its relationship with Djibouti. So Sudan and all of this area, the reason is, of course, it's preparing for another war. Now, does it make sense? Does it make sense for Tigray to conduct disarmament or demobilization at a time like this? Because they could easily squash it. They could easily, if an entire disarmament is being done in Tigray at this point in time, both Amhara and Eritrea could easily squash it within a day. And that is exactly what you want to do, in order to reach Addis Ababa. So we have all of this. Even the Ethiopian government is not, the Ethiopian government is threatening Tigray in direct and indirect ways. One of the things that often comes up is the question of Eritrea. If you have seen Abiy, he has been talking about Asab and the Danakil area for a long time now. One of the reasons I believe why he is a dominant in holding a relationship with Somaliland is precisely because of Eritrea. The navy that he wants based in Somaliland is eventually meant to land in Asab. That's exactly what he wants, because he knows that once he captures Asab, he cannot hold it forever unless he has already a potent navy outside of on the Red Sea. That's how he believes it. But then, if you look at the issue of the Red Sea and Asab, what you see is he is primarily interested in the Danakil area. The Danakil area is about half of the coast of the Eritrean, half of the Red Sea coast of Eritrea lies in the Danakil area. Now he believes that if he takes that away, he will have no resistance from the Afars over there. He will have help from the Afars on the Ethiopian side, and it would be easily protected. He doesn't want the rest of Eritrea. He doesn't the rest of Eritrea primarily for one reason, Tigray. He's afraid that if Eritrea gets, if the guy in Eritrea is thrown away, is overthrown, and a new government comes in Eritrea, then an alliance with Eritrea and Tigray would be to his detriment. He also believes that Tigray should remain encircled the way it is right now. And so a free Eritrea would give it access to Tigray, and therefore he would. It would be out of its hand, out of its control. Out of his control. Tigray would be out of his control. So what's planned now and what's planned in the future bodes ill for Tigray. In light of all of this, in light of what's coming, even the election of Trump, Trump is elected. We go back to the beginning of the war. Remember when people like what is his name? Tabi Nigor. I couldn't remember him.
Tibor Nagy.
Okay. Tibor Nagy and Pompeo and the rest were cheerleading the Ethiopian army. Literally, they were cheerleading the Ethiopian army. So we could go back to that era. Now, in light of all of this, does it make sense for Tigray to disarm itself? That is the question that I have. And to go back a little bit to as to why the government of Tigray keeps accommodating, keeps doing whatever Abiy is demanding, like, for example, the case of this reversal that we have been looking at, first the resettlement and then whatever comes after that, why would they keep accommodating it? One of the reasons I think is because, of course, they depend on him. Because a huge part of their legitimacy comes from the Abiy government. And that if they are that dependent on him, then it's very hard for them to say no to Abiy. That's part of it. Of course, and then there is the whole Tigray, administrating Tigray would require money from Addis Ababa. The finance, the salaries, the services, the aid, at least it has to be approved from Addis Ababa. So all of this comes from Tigray through Addis Ababa. And because of that, they have been accommodating Abiy, in whatever questions that the question is, where will they stop? Where will they stop? Because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense the way that they have been going. And the other one, I believe, is to some extent, I believe they have been swindled by Abiy. They have been convinced. For example, he has convinced them that he will definitely help them in the resettlement of the IDPs in these areas. Remember General Taddese when he came first, he was, I mean, he was so sure of himself when he was telling us that the IDPs will return in Raya at this date, in Tsallamt at this date, in Humara at this date, you know. But every time they have been trying to do that, there was obstacles were deliberately put in those areas. So I believe that the same way they did in regarding to the genocide of Tigray, you know, they kept accommodating him. They kept keeping silent at the time when they should have talked. And then, of course, even went far enough, I suspect, to erase some evidence from the Tigrayan landscape in order to accommodate him. All of this happened because I believe what they thought, if you do this to him, then he will resist that. But throughout the process, nothing substantive have been done from his side, although they have been accommodating him in many ways. So that to me is part of the reason. Another reason that I think is probably the pressure of the people. The pressure of the Tigrayan people was getting louder and louder. You know, you could hear people complaining as to why they shouldn't return the IDPs. Now they wanted to appear to do something about it, you know, but eventually it was a fiasco. So back to now they are trapped in between because on the one hand they have Abiy who has been undermining them, on the other hand, there is a population and also the split of the party itself, you know, which has cornered them to do something. So we have reached, I believe, so we have reached somewhat at the crossroads right now. So we'll see how it will go.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think that's a brilliant exposition of what is happening. But if I could play the devil's advocate with respect to two strands of political thought in Tigray, from things that I hear from serious people, some of them in the interim administration, some of them from in the opposition. One of the things they say constantly, and this is a serious political point, is that our priority, when I say Tigray's priority should be to be in good terms with the United States. And one of the things that the United States doesn't like is Tigray maintaining its own army, and therefore to be in the good books of the United States, Tigray should demobilize and disarm at any cost, even if that means that Western Tigray and Southern Tigray remain under occupation. Because if we are in good terms with the US, then other good things would happen as the result of that. That is one thing that they seem to be saying. How do you respond to that?
Well, to me, you know, even the last thing that I mentioned about the American administration during the Trump era, you know, if you go back to that, for example, let's say Trump is voted in, and you go back to that, then everything that they have said in regarding this will evaporate. It won't make sense. One is that. Another one is, I believe, what they are too accommodating. In all, what I have sensed is the Tigrayan elite in general, but also the government of Tigray and TPLF in particular, they have been too accommodating in everything that I have seen them. For example, why would they be too accommodating to Abiy? You know, even if, for example, say for example, the government couldn't say much because it depends almost for everything, not only the resources but also its own legitimacy from him. So let's say, okay, that is the case. But then you would expect the other parts of the Tigrayan elite, you know, let's say the civic groups, the opposition. The opposition, for example, what do they have got to lose? For example, to shout on these issues, on DDR, on genocide, or even the TPLF has been split in two wings, why did the other wing, for example, the Brazilian wing, which is now talking a lot, but which has kept silent for about 2 years, why didn't it had nothing to lose. I mean, there was nothing that it was gaining from the government. Why didn't they talk? I think it's in their head, they have to push. In the case of Abiy, I believe that had they been much more aggressive, he would have been more accommodating to them. The same thing holds true with the U.S. government. The U.S. government is not simply doing it by looking at them independently. What it has done is it has been looking at how they have been reacting in regards to Abiy. It has seen them accommodating Abiy in every way possible. So it has taken the lead from that one. So to me, I don't think they have to, especially when it comes to Western Tigray, which I think is a lifeline for Tigray itself. They should have been more adamant. They should have insisted that first the administration should have been returned, and this have been seconded by the opposition and the rest of the Tigrayan elite, but none of them have been doing. They were totally engrossed into the infighting within Tigray itself. All of them, most of them, they say, unless we deal with this problem, nothing will be solved. And as a result of that, they have let Abiy scot-free, and also at the same time, America also it's trying to do whatever it wants, because whatever you could see it in their eyes. They have been following America wherever they go. But there is a reason. Probably we'll go to that later. But there is a reason why America is interested in Tigray. If you look at it and in depth, then we'll understand this dynamics that they have been talking to me.
Well, another thing that people say, and this is a point that the interim administration seems to be pushing, is that the restoration of Tigrayan administration in Western Tigray and Southern Tigray is going to be very difficult, very arduous, very long. It's going to take a lot of time, and therefore that we shouldn't keep the people as hostages. That's how they describe the people in IDP centers, and they say that we should take Abiy at his word for once, believe him when he said that return the people, we're going to solve other problems later. When he said that we should take him at his word, we should try to align ourselves with Abiy, become junior partners, and in the process, we're going to return the administration as well. But for now, they say, again, this is their point of view, and I'm asking you to respond to that. They say that for now, we shouldn't hold the people hostages, and we should just try to resettle them by becoming junior partners with Abiy. That is a point that the Tigray interim administration seems to be sort of serious on. So respond to that.
Okay, let me ask you one question. What does it take for the Tigrayan government to return, for example, to let's say, let's start with the smallest one, Raya? What does it take? I mean, does it take? I mean, it takes probably. Of course, some kind of preparation.
Well, I mean, all it takes is a go ahead from Abiy.
Go ahead.
And
Exactly. The governor will be nominated. All the administrators will be nominated, and then the police, the Tigrayan police, will be. They will have another office, an additional office, another department over there. The justice system, the same thing. The old court, it's still there. It will take probably a week or so to install the government. So the idea that that installing a government will take a long time is bogus. They have invented it especially for this purpose. What takes long time is, as I have enumerated before, is the resettlement of the IDPs. That will take years because it will take time. You know, you have to create a safe environment for them. You have to take them. You have to return to them all their properties, and then they have to aid them to start from scratch. That will take time. But they have made the return of the government, which is the simplest thing to do. Which is the simplest thing to do, as if it's arduous, precisely because this is not what they are doing, and they want to give other people, you know, a reason for that one. But I think it's totally bogus.
Oh, let's explore a little bit what Abiy's end game is in this. What is he thinking, Abiy, in terms of the DDR, in terms of the occupation of Western Tigray and Southern Tigray, and the refusal to restore the Tigray administration? What is in it for Abiy?
Abiy, okay. I think Abiy is probably have a much more nuanced approach to this than the US. The US doesn't see, I mean, anything in it. I mean, it looks at it straightly. The disarmament of, you know, the entire disarmament of the TDF. Once it's demobilized, and then of course they never ask for the return of the territorial integrity of Tigray. If you have heard Hammer, he never mentions that. But we'll see that probably later. But in the case of Abiy, it's a much more nuanced approach that he's taking. He doesn't want the DDR as the US is, although I am sure he's not opposing the US in whatever it is doing. I believe that the entire disarmament of Tigray at this point in time, it will not only come to the disadvantage of Tigray, but also to the disadvantage of Abiy government himself. Because he feels that at this point in time, if Tigray is entirely demobilized, is entirely disarmed, as we have mentioned before, then both Amhara and Eritrea will have a field day in this case. And he will lose the buffer zone. He wants that buffer zone intact until he feels that he could control all of Tigray, whether that day comes or not. Irrespective of that day, his dream is that at a certain point, the PP will entirely control Tigray. But until that, he wants to keep it the way it is right now. He might want some kind of demobilization, you know. He doesn't want all of them armed at this point in time, but he doesn't want to disarm Tigray completely at this point in time. Here is how I look at it. He has created a certain balance within Tigray. He wants Tigray weak enough so as not to threaten him. Weak enough so as not to threaten him, to threaten his government. That means the divided Tigray that we are looking at. The indecisive Tigray that we are looking at. The Tigray also that is also encircled, that couldn't come out from its encirclement, from the siege that it exists now. So that kind of Tigray, he wants to remain it as weak as that. But at the same time, he wants it to remain strong enough as to be a buffer zone for him, for his government. Because the fear that he has is eventually, the fear that he has is that somehow a tripartite alliance could be created from the north, either willingly, for example, if Tigray, sides with Eritrea and Amhara, or unwillingly, if it is squashed by Tigray and by Amhara and Eritrea, then eventually this will be the end of his government. He knows that. So by the very fact that Tigray remains the way it is right now, at the middle, preventing a greater synergy between Eritrea and Amhara at this point in time, that to him is perfect. Tigray is protecting him from the northern part of both, Eventually, though, eventually he wants to, of course, do two things, I believe. What he wants is Tigray that eventually, slowly, controlled by PP. He wants a certain kind of, his model would be Chechnya, the Chechnya of in Russia. Remember Chechnya? At first there was a big rebellion, and then the Russians squashed it. But they knew the wars of Chechnya. They are warriors. Those people are warriors, although it's a tiny area. Warriors. So he accommodated them in when it's possible within Chechnya. He made it possible for a dictator of their own, from their own kind, to rule them, and he gave them some kind of economic, advantage over there. In the end, now they are serving him well. They are fighting in Ukraine as hell. The Chechens are the most feared warriors in Ukraine right now. That's exactly the model that he wants. He knows that the road to Asmara is from Magale. He knows that. There's no other way to reach Asmara, it's from Magale. But not only that, he knows that the road to Bahar Dar is not from Addis Ababa to Rara the way he's doing, it's from Magale. Because if you vanquish Eritrea, or if you destroy Eritrea, whatever it is, if you do that, you subdue Eritrea, then the Amhara falls at the same time. So for him, the road to Magale and then to Asmara means the road to Bahar Dar. But not only that, he was also eliminating the road to Addis Ababa. He knows that, as I pointed out before, that if there is any kind of alliance between the three, willingly or forcefully, then that would be also the road to Addis Ababa. So all roads lead, all the roads are, you could only pass them through Magale. That's why what he wants most is control, to have complete control over Tigray, and use them as Chechen soldiers. That's one of the things that he wants. Eventually, though, he doesn't want them even to stay that. Eventually, what he wants is, we go back to the previous, at the beginning, when we talked about disarmament, demobilization. The demobilization that he wants is the demobilization of Tigray as a society. He has to demobilize it, to decapacitate it forever. In that way, it means that, for example, scattering most of the population of Tigray, let's say, to the rest of Ethiopia, and another mass exodus, which has already started, to different parts of the world, the way that it has been done in Eritrea before, and then, of course, parceling it in different, different pieces, the way it has been done, for example, in the case of the Nigeria war. After that, the Igbo land has been parceled into different pieces, so that to make sure that Igbo could never rise back again. So that kind of idea is what he has in mind. So this is what Abiy wants. And to me, how does he keep it? The question is, how is he keeping the balance inside Tigray right now? Because that's exactly what he's working at. The things that we have been looking at, for example, he has almost at least approved Getacheo's appointment. So without his approval, there will be no Getachew at the helm of the seat, at the seat of the power. Now, what he's doing is he's keeping the balance in a very sleek way. Even though he has, his preference seems Getachew and the rest of them, in the provisional government of Tigray, he keeps undermining them again and again. He keeps undermining it to keep that balance in Tigray, the balance that he is looking at in Tigray. Now, think about the other side, for example, the TPLF side, the Debrecen wing of TPLF. Look at what they are doing, sir. They know, the TPLF or even the TDF, they know, each of them, they know that they cannot undertake a coup d'etat in Mekelle. Not because they can't. The TDF could do it in a day. But the problem is they will never get the approval of Abiy. And that means that they will immediately enter into not the encirclement that we are looking now, but the genocidal encirclement that was before. All the resources will be cut. There will no more be electricity, no more salaries, no more finance, no more aid, no more food, no more medicine. So if that happens, I mean, the day after that, the Tigrayan people will rise against the TDF, against the generals. So the generals don't know that. Debretsion and his group knows that. So what he has done is he has created a strange formula where an emasculated government, he has got an emasculated, which he keeps undermining again and again. But at the same time, he has allowed the Debretsion group and whatever others to do whatever they want to do to disrupt, to obstruct the government, short of taking over. So they are, in a way, they have been trapped into this formula and they don't seem to realize it, They have been trapped into this formula. It's as if he has put them on a treadmill that seems to reach somewhere. It doesn't reach. I mean, they keep doing all the kind of movements associated with walking, but they never seem to reach anywhere. And this is a perfect formula that he has created right now. So for now, this is exactly what he wants, and he is keeping it that way. But later, as I have said before, he has two plans ahead in his mind. Yeah, if he will ever succeed, that we'll see. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, so that is Abiy's end game, and it makes perfect sense, although it raises a lot of natural questions. The first one is, why is it that the Tigray political establishment seems to be a willing participant in this emasculation of Tigray? You would think they would at least resist to be willing participants in this, but they are not. Is it that they don't know what you just said? Maybe we'll come to that a bit later. But first, you briefly said that Abiy and the U.S. government, and in general, I think we could say the Western establishment, don't see eye to eye on the issue of how to handle Tigray. I think he briefly alluded to that point. So, where is it that the U.S. government, for instance, doesn't completely agree with Abiy when it comes to how to handle Tigray? What differences do you think they have?
I think it doesn't come from differences, I believe. What it comes from is they don't understand Abiy. They don't understand the Abiy. The West has never understood understood Abiy. At the beginning, it was clear, with the Nobel Prize and so. But even now, they haven't completely understood the way he thinks. For example, okay, if you look at if you go first, if we look at why the US wants, the DDR to be good, and then it would lead us to that. They believe that, of course, primarily, I don't mean that they wish ill the Tigrayan people in general, but primarily they have been working with Ethiopia's stability in mind. The more chaotic it becomes, the more concerned they are. It's a strange kind, without ever asking, where is it that chaos coming from? Without ever asking, where is that chaos coming from? For example, and whenever they mean Ethiopia's, when I mean with Ethiopia's disability in their with Ethiopia's stability in their mind, I mean directly translates into Abiy government's stability in their mind. They believe that at this point in time, they don't have any alternative to Abiy in order to stabilize Ethiopia, even though all the instability, all the destabilization not only in Ethiopia, inside Ethiopia, but also outside of Ethiopia, is coming from Abiy himself. That is where, why is it that they are not getting him right? We know why, of course, we know why they have been flocking to Maqale the same way. We have been talking about Abiy, they also understand that the only way to, to Asmara, Addis Ababa, and all of those, is through Maqale. But they want different results than Abiy. Abiy wants, as we have, they have already mentioned before. But in their case, at this point in time, they don't want further instability in the area because it's all chaos from Somalia to Sudan, but without understanding, the local intricacies of the game, without really understanding it. For example, there is, if you have seen in the at minimum, it is why are they? What do they look when they look at Abiy? What do they look? Why is it that the US doesn't get it? That has been the question that I have been asking for a long time. I still don't have, enough, or at least a sure enough answer to it. But let me try. At least let me try what is going on the Abiy side, Abiy is the central of, is the cause for all the destabilization. For almost all the destabilization throughout the region. Now, why is that? The question that I keep coming back to is, I believe Abiy, this is my main point, Abiy has a totalitarian mind. Has a totalitarian mind in an area and space where totalitarianism cannot hold. So it's a different era, of course. That's one of the reasons. It's a very fluid era. But even the area that is, for example, in Eritrea, you could see a totalitarian government that has almost succeeded. Although I wouldn't totally say that, because it's a small land, and he has taken whatever. He has displaced half of the population, and that is how he has kept Eritrea totalitarian. Now imagine Abiy doing the same thing in Ethiopia. He has to displace almost 40 or 50 million people in order to maintain that kind of totalitarianism inside Ethiopia. It would be impossible. He is failing at the very beginning. But the question that I have is that there is no way you could change the mind of totalitarian minds. You can never convince them, but it's almost a way of being for them, a way of being. For Isaias and Abiy, there is no, they couldn't think, there is no, the idea of compromise is absolutely impossible. He could compromise in certain areas tactically. Tactically, for example, when he tried to destroy Tigray, he compromised with Eritrea and with the Amharas. The Amharas, he gave them some kind of agency. To the Amhara founders, he gave them some kind of agency. No totalitarian leader does that. What he did was, okay, at this point in time, I can't afford to do anything more. I will have to give them agency, and I will have to accept Eritrea's parity with whatever I have, But as soon as that was over, then he has to control the Amhara land. Now, if you look at all of them, one mark of a totalitarian regime like Abiy is displacement. It keeps displacement its people precisely because that is the only way it knows how it could govern at least at the fluid stage of totalitarianism until he gets the entire nation under his total control. What he does is he he has to keep destabilizing the population. Remember, he started with Gideo at the beginning, and then there was the case of the Somali Oromo conflict, which displaced more than 1 million Oromos, most of which were came to Addis Ababa. So the moment he saw, for example, when people saw tragedy in the case of the Oromos that were displaced then, because it would have been better for them since they were farmers and pastoralists. It would have been better if he had made peace with the Somalis and reached some kind of agreement and went back to their farms. But for Abiy, it was a moment. It was his totalitarian mind that works then. What he thought was, if I could bring those 1 million Oromos to Addis Ababa, then I could make a demographic change in Addis Ababa to my liking. So this is the beginning of his thought. It was the whole thing, the whole Ethiopia he's looking at it that way. So the first step, one of the first steps that he made was this one. So for him, the displacement of 1 million people from here to there, it doesn't make. Even though, imagine this was the Oromo. Supposedly he was an Oromo. He's an Oromo, and you would think that he would sympathize with the Oromos. But as I keep saying again and again with Eritreans in general, I say that both Abiy and Isaias, they don't have a people that they can claim as their own. It's impossible for them to be loyal to certain people and claim them, these are my own. Even being a tribalist or right wing, for example, he would claim that the white people are his own, but they don't have even that. They have no affinity towards any people. So it's easier for them to move 1 million from here to there, 1 million from here to there, so far as it works for their idea of total control. So it started with Gideo, Oromo, and then came Tigray. The same thing happened in Tigray. So unless Tigray is subdued, unless genocide is being conducted there, then that would be a total control. Now it has the problem. The whole problem has gone to the Amhara land, and he's trying also to do the same thing over there. So to me, it's that it's impossible for him to compromise on anything that fringes on his totalitarian control. That is the main point that we have to understand. So he will keep pitting one people against the other. Now he's trying to pit the Tigrayans against the Amharas, even in these areas, in this, in the border areas that we have been talking about in Raya, Tzallemti. One of his ideas is, one of his intentions is to pit the Tigrayans and the Amharas. If they could do that, then he has also, one step ahead in what he's trying to do. Now, a good example of this that I've been talking about is Addis Ababa. Think about Addis Ababa. What does one see when he goes to Addis Ababa? It's the glitter that people see, the pavements, the parks, and all of that. But Addis Ababa, at this point in time, it might not be encircled as Tigray is, but it's under encirclement, Addis Ababa. It's a virtual encirclement in a way. The threat is what it keeps it encircled. The majority of Addis Ababa is, of course, Amhara. The Amhara population are the majority over there. And the rest also, the Gurages and probably the Hadias, they would probably sympathize more with the Amharas than the Oromos, I think. And the Oromos had always been a minority in Addis Ababa. Now, if he is going to, if the threat, and usually in third world, it's like in Africa, the threat always comes from the capital city. Remember, Haile Selassie, the students rebelled against him, then the taxistas, and all hell broke loose. So for him, he has to take total control of Addis Ababa. Total control as in no other place in Ethiopia. There's no other place. He could get, the Walaitas and Sidamas might be a little bit freer than the people in Addis Ababa. But in Addis Ababa, he can't afford to lose control in Addis Ababa. So what he did was, but for this to happen, you have to have a greater displacement. So notice that one displacement creates or demands for it to deliver whatever it was meant to deliver, demands a bigger displacement. Now in Addis Ababa, what happened was, once he has also introduced, got in some Oromos with an idea of demographic change inside Addis Ababa. And then, of course, we have to remember that Addis Ababa is in the middle of Oromia. Now, the threat of genocide is always there. That if the Amharas or others, or together, march in protest in Addis Ababa, the way they to protest during Haile Selassie, for example, then, in fact, he literally said it recently. He said that if there is any kind of confrontation, to remove him, in one confrontation, 100,000 people might die. So he's telling them that they are all surrounded with Oromos, and he better not do anything. And that's exactly, even though half of the population of Addis Ababa is starving right now, with all the economic downturn, none of them would dare come out and protest against him, precisely because he has reached a certain balance in Addis Ababa by pitting the bigger picture, the Amharas against Oromos. So the thing that's going on in Amhara right now is directly related to Addis Ababa. He couldn't have done that, without signifying the Amharas as enemies. Now now that he has pitted the two major groups, the Oromos and the Amharas, he has ensured his safety. It's a precarious balance, but this precarious balance inside Addis Ababa. Now, if you look at it, then, what he has done in Tigray, the balance that he has reached in Tigray, and the balance that he has reached in Addis Ababa has similarities. He also keeps tweaking, at its edge in order to ensure that balance survives over there. In Addis Ababa, he will introduce Oromia police, do this and that, he'll make sure. It's not that he has a love to the Oromos, but he has known how to keep that precarious balance in Addis Ababa. That's how his totalitarian mind works. Now, it is this mind that the Americans have absolutely no understanding at all. How it came, it's another story, we could go to his illiteracy, we could go to his, prosperity church, the evangelical roots of it, to his understanding of or misunderstanding of modernity and all of that, but that's for another day. All that we know is that he has a totalitarian mind. There is no room for compromise in his head. He could seem to do it. For example, the Americans always mention about national dialogue. Remember that? They always mention, okay, we will do a national dialogue with Tigray, with Oromo, with Amhara. That to mention even that is not to understand the frame of mind of either we are in cahoots with him, we are saying, okay, we'll fool the rest, the Tigrayans and the Amharas and the Olas, we'll fool them to, and then in the end they will have to grant him all that he wants. If that is what they are doing, then that's another story. But if they really are planning, if they have in their heads that somehow a national dialogue could be conducted in Ethiopia right now, they should be out of their minds. That's why I believe that the Americans and the Europeans Either they don't know him at all, or if they know him, then they have decided to go along with him, saying that we don't have any alternative, so let's have a totalitarian leader lead Ethiopia. But to me, that's where it seems. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you said that is Abiy is maintaining a precarious balance, and I think that is the most apt way of describing how he operates, and is very, very good at that. If there is one thing that he's good at, it is at maintaining a delicate, precarious balance. Yosef, we have outlined the end games of the bigger players around Tigray. Maybe we haven't mentioned Eritrea in any serious way. We haven't had time for that. Maybe we'll come back to the issue of Eritrea another time. But in terms of the US, Abiy and the other political actors who have an interest in Tigray, I think we have sort of outlined the map, the picture. We have also outlined the political landscape in Tigray, what the thinking of the interim administration is, what the thinking of the other wing of the TPLF is, and of the opposition parties. My final question to you, Yosef, is going to be a hypothetical situation. If we were to assume that Tigray had a competent government that has the interests of Tigray at heart, and if there was a serious, competent mainstream political process in Tigray generally, what it is that they should have been doing now to get out of this,
This
extremely
mess, yeah.
difficult situation. Yeah.
Well, I mean, your guess is as good as mine, I guess. What to me, the whole problem of the powers in Tigray, especially the two wings of the TPLF, the Getachew wing and the Debrecen wing, they have been vying for power, and that's obvious. Even they themselves have been saying that. The question of legitimacy is what comes at most. The Getachew group has had, depended too much on the Abiy government. They know their mistake right now. They have realized their mistake right now because it has costed them so much without getting anything out of it. But at the same time, what they are doing right now, for example, conducting meetings and rallies, is with the intention of showing that they have enough legitimacy from the people of Tigray. That's what they are trying to do. The same is, by the way, happening on the other corner. Now, but they are not doing it only for the people of Tigray. They want to show, for example, Abiy has to know that the Tigrayan government is not only dependent on him, that it has so much support from its people. Another thing is the US, for example. The US, they have been, as you said, they have been very much dependent on the US for various things. And one of the things that they are trying to do right now is they want to show the US that they have much support of from the Tigrayan people. So they are doing multiple with with multiple viewers in mind is what they are doing. Not only the diaspora or the Tigrayan inside Tigray, but also these two main powers they are trying to show them. Had they started to do that, for example, they would have had a leverage because once they are totally supported by the people, then you can enforce. You have a good bargaining chip at your hands. They haven't done that before. It's now only when they are cornered by the other side of the TPLF that they are doing it. The other type of TPLF is also doing the same thing. It's trying to get its legitimacy from its members. From TPLF members, from the people in general, and often they end up, both of them, both wings end up with regional followers also, which is another ugly shape of this game. You see it clearly on which regions the Getachew government is depending on its rallies and all of that, and the other also the same thing. So, to me, the question that we should ask now is, deep down, there is anxiety on both these branches, deep down, but more so on the Debrecen part. Deep down, he doubts that there is so much, so many people, so many supporters, that could stay with him through thick and thin. Because first of all, there is no ideology. Both of them, what kind of ideology are these following? For example, these two wings of the TPLF, what is their ideology? The ideology that they can sell to the people in general, Do they have any ideology? There is none at all. Sometimes it's even laughable. Today I was listening to what was the Alam Wahid, what's his name? One of those
Abiy Ghebrehiwet.
Abiy Ghebrehiwet, yeah. He was talking about a new derby, a new accusing the Getachew group as.
Even his vocabulary is so obsolete, so
obsolete.
anachronistic that it's laughable, like I said.
It's just amazing, So imagine that kind of language being used to the peasants of Tigray. What does it mean to them? Well, and to the IDPs, what does it mean to them? They have become so alienated with the people that now they are afraid. That's where I want to come to the idea of networking. I believe, for example, recently, remember when General Tadesse made a proposal for them, to stop these rallies and meetings, and at the same time for the government of Tigray to stop these new appointments and new dismissals, for a while. When he made that proposal, which I thought it was okay.
A sensible thing, yeah.
A sensible thing to do, yeah. It was okay at that point in time. Even when you look at it now, in fact, in retrospect, what they are doing right now, then it makes much more sense even now. His proposal makes much more sense even now. But there was this paranoia within the Getachew, within the Debrecen group, precisely because they knew that if there was, a lot of new appointments all the way from the top to the bottom, then the network that they have been depending on will be cut off from the people, and they would have nothing to give. No ideology. You don't have any ideology anyway to give, and at the same time, no perks to give. It used to be that peasants used to get fertilizers, some others used to get appointments, and then those rich capitalists, they used to get contracts and stuff like that. That's how you hold them. Now, if that is cut off, then they are left with nothing. And then at the same time, if the people know that the Debrecen wing of TPLF has no more to give in that sense, then they will immediately switch to the other part, to the governing body. So both of them are playing the network game. Who inherits that network is the whole problem, because both of them know that they don't have anything, as in ideology or as in ideas, anything to propose to the masses. Even the government itself, it doesn't have anything to offer. For example, the resettlement program has been a total fiasco, and that has been attempted after 2 years of ineptitude. So when it comes to that, when it comes to genocide, it was one blunder after another. So the government has nothing to give. The TPLF has nothing to give. So the only way they could remain in contact with the people, in support of the people, is by having that network. So in order to maintain that network, the obvious conclusion would be you have to have the power. For example, if TPLF is to maintain its networks, then by hook or by crook, it has to come to power. So this is a problem. Now that we have understand what the problem is, to me, we go back to the Taddese's proposal. I took it with, not totally, but as a half-done deal, For example, if he had done that, even now, I think you should go back to that. That's what I believe. They should be silenced, those two groups, because they have never stopped bickering with one another. The meetings should be stopped, the rallies should be stopped, and the new appointments also should be stopped. Once they do that, though, what was missing in Taddese's proposal was, first of all, he didn't set time. There was no time frame to it. It cannot be longer than, let's say, 3 or 4 months. After that, it would be totally a disaster. So you should have said, okay, for these few months, we'll stop it. But immediately after that, he should have offered a solution. He shouldn't have left it to the rest of the world for the solution to come. He should have said a meeting should be conducted with all the relevant forces, as it has done before. But now, with a leading role being played by the group that the security group. They should have called, the diaspora, the GSTS, and all the rest, the civil groups inside Tigray, the opposition groups. But, and this is a big but, I don't think either part of the TPLF should be invited at that beginning, because it's about them. It's about them. Now, to my, according to me, well, it could be a wild idea, but first of all, people should stop trying to unite them, to make one single entity out of these two branches. People should stop that, because these are two parties already made, and Tigray is better off with these two parties, rather than with the one party that used to rule over Tigray. So that should be accepted, because if you look carefully at them, since they believe that their network system could be had only by coming to power, they want to inherit the entire TPLF. They have even called it Midhan TPLF. To them, to save TPLF means to eliminate the other one. But nobody wants one TPLF that comes out with 50 plus 1, and it will have also some from the rest, and then come to the power Tigray forever. Nobody wants that one. I do believe that this is a good chance to say no such thing should be done. The other shouldn't try to swallow the other part. These are two parties. They could call themselves TPLF1 and TPLF2, or a new name. It doesn't matter. The 50 plus 1 belongs to them for these two parties. Okay, and then of course we will have the opposition parties, probably, I don't know, 25%, and the rest of the civil, another 25%. And what you have is a unity government made up of minority governments. No single majority will be the same way, for example, that we see now in South Africa, where there is no majority, and then they made a unity government. Now, that formula could be had if, people like Taddese lead it, because those are the ones who are now at the center. I could see him as he could be leading toward this, the one or the other, but that doesn't matter, One has to give them a chance there, to the security people. Okay, now lead it. you have proposed this idea of cooling it down, but cooling it down is not enough. Immediately we should enter into this bargain where every forces are called, and you create that one, then it becomes clear to everybody that the unity government that is created cannot be sustained without the approval of all of them. Without the approval of all of them, and the paranoia that they are having right now. Somehow, if our network is cut off, then we'll perish. Wouldn't exist, and that's part of it. Once the unity of then the bargaining power of Tigray would go. I mean, a stratospheric level. It would go up. That's what I believe. Then they could impose. They could say, okay, here we are. We want our territorial integrity returned. And then we could. Demobilization is to happen only after we feel secure throughout the environment. Things like that. They could demand some other demands, I believe, but that's what I have as an idea, on how to do this, because the idea that especially my appeal is especially to opposition groups that have been looking at the TDF or the security department, that is being led by General Tadeso already suspiciously. I don't think, we'll come to a dead end again. And they could do that. Maybe there is a chance for Tigray to gain at least some kind of momentum at this point in time, where everything is, all around them is anarchy right now. So they could have. That's what I believe.
Yeah, if you could expand on the, I know we have run out of time, Yosef, but just one more point. If you could expand on the bargain point, as you all have noticed, a lot of people have been disenfranchised from the political process because a lot of people are not partisan. They don't have affiliation with either wing of the TPLF. People who have the best interest of Tigray at heart only interested how is it that Tigray could increase its bargaining power, bargaining chip or leverage, so that it would be in a position to to push Abiy and the Americans for the return of Western Tigray and Southern Tigray, and for the rehabilitation and resettlement of the people in IDP centers. I think that is the point that many Tigrayans are thinking about. So how do you think it is that Tigray could, again, given the current political dynamic in Tigray, given accepting that as a fact of life, how is it that Tigray could increase its bargaining chip?
Oddly enough, I believe when this split came out in the open, it has been there, simmering for a long time, almost 2 years. They have been fighting inside. The infighting has been going on between the two wings of TPLF for a long time. Oddly enough, though, when this came out to the surface in the open, I felt this is good. This is good because I also believe that Tigray gained to some extent some kind of leverage out of this split. For example, when the people on the Debrecen side, they are accusing Getachew and his group of accommodating Abiy too much. Both in the genocide, they have been accusing them of releasing 400 prisoners that have been accused of the act of genocide. They have been accusing them of also in retrospect, going back to the beginning, of dismantling the Tigrayan government. They have been accusing them of, without saying probably, without openly saying it, that they have been too dependent on foreign forces, which means was Abiy and USA. So these kind of things, by the way, I don't believe a bit of what they are saying, that when they were part of it, they have been doing all these things. But it doesn't matter. It's good that they have said it now. It's good that they have said it now. It has not only put pressure on the Getachew group, on the government, because it cannot simply get away with it right now. It has to do something, or else, for example, the 400 prisoners, as Tadesso told us, they were released in return of Tigrayan soldiers, which were in the leadership, and they were condemned to die, and so on and so forth. That is true, for example, irrespective of whether it's, that's are they back now? They have given them. Why did they? Why did they trust Abiy? And are they back now? And if they are not back, what are they? Those people that they have said in return. So they cannot simply get away with it, because there is another voice on the other side that's taking things out in the open. Now, not only has it made them, it has also made worry Abiy. Abiy also is looking at strangely, because he might feel right now, okay, I have undermined them too much, because he's looking at the balance. The balance shifts towards the Debrecen group or other groups, or the opposition group. Then he will have to do something to keep that balance together. And therefore, as a result of that, the Getachew group will gain some kind of leverage. The government itself will gain some kind of leverage. Okay, not only that, why did the US rush to Mekelle after the split? It's because it was going smoothly, like the same way the Abiy demands, were being. He had no problem to do all the things that he wants to do, because they were accommodating him in every way possible. Now they were also accommodating the US in the same way possible. But now, on the other hand, there is this group who is saying they are a sellout even to the US. They are doing exactly what it is doing, and it is doing it probably to create stability inside Ethiopia. Their primary purpose is for the stability of Ethiopia, not the stability of Tigray. They have been calling about DDR. They are trying to disarm Tigray. Now, as I said, they have never said anything before. So, but it's good that these things have come out, precisely because whether they realize or not, even though they are being exposed, the Getachew government can go now to Abiy, can go now to US. Look, we have been accommodating in whatever way possible, but now look at what they are doing to us. Look what they are doing to us. Not only them, especially, that's why I'm always disappointed by the opposition. The opposition should have also pointed at this weakness even before, They were also kind of waiting for their legitimacy from Abiy, and they have never said anything when it comes to Abiy. A little bit here, a little bit there, but never, in very concrete ways, So to me, that's why I want them a different, the idea of the TPLF being split into two. It is a healthy way of, to some extent, doing democracy in Tigray. Well, that's one. Another one is something that was taboo, has been also come out first. For example, Debrecen boldly said, we want peace with Fano and Eritrea. Now, when he says we want peace with Fano and Eritrea, he doesn't mean peace and Fano and Eritrea. What he's saying, he's threatening the the Abiy government. We have a backup mechanism. So if you push us, you know where we could land. That's what he's saying. Okay, that too is okay with me. Even though I hate any dissociation with Isaias being an Eritrean, and I know exactly what he has in mind for Tigray. But still, what happens is they are playing their cards now, and that's part of the empowerment process. Now, what they should insist is, of course, the return of the refugees, and at the same time, the return of the land of its territories of Tigray, because that would also bring a huge leverage for Tigray, To me, the problem is always Abiy. If Abiy really wants peace in that region, he could bring it now. He could return the territories of Tigray, prior to what was prior to the war, and he should accept that Tigray would remain somewhat autonomous. It's not independence. It's not. I'm not talking about independence. It remains with Ethiopia. It remains with Ethiopia because if you look at the TPLF, for example, that's why I said there is no ideology behind the TPLF, either by the Getachew wing or at least on the side of the opposition. You see nationalists. So these are Ethiopians. Basically, all they want is a place within Ethiopia. So that place, some kind of autonomy, and then I am sure he would have resolved all the rest of the problems. But as I said before, this guy has a totalitarian mind. He cannot think otherwise. I mean, it's impossible for him to that kind of paradigm shifts cannot happen with this kind of person. All that he's thinking is, how do I mean, there could be steps, for example, when it comes to Eritrea, how do I get ASAP? Okay, so how do I go to Somaliland? And then how do I ally myself with Hemeti, for example, Hemeti in Sudan? The idea of aligning with Hemeti in Sudan was basically was to surround Amhara and Tigray also at the same time, but Amhara mainly because that is where the trouble is right now. Because it's a porous border, he cannot encircle it. He has been unable to encircle it as in Tigray. So if Hemeti had won that war, on that area, he did for a brief time, but he lost it later. Then his idea was if they could prevent the entrance of whatever military resources, that Eritrea and Egypt or others give to the Amharas, it would be the Amhara would be encircled the way it has been encircled in Tigray. So, as I said before, when he thinks about one displacement, in order for that displacement to deliver, he has to invent a bigger. Now, the nation is no more enough for him. The nation can't contain this many displacements. He has to go outside the nation. That's why he goes to Somaliland, he goes to Sudan, and he's now planning to go to Eritrea. Because unless he does that, then the displacements that he has created inside Ethiopia up to now, they are not going to deliver for him. So there is no way for him to stop in a way, it's you could imagine infinity, but in a sense, he will come to a dead end. He will come to a dead end, and that will be it for him. But it's impossible for him to say, okay, what should I do now? Where do I compromise? How do I do certain things now? He cannot think that way. He cannot think that way. That is, to me, the message that the Americans should get again and again. Because we could speak, a whole day on the frame of mind of Abiy, because that to me is the most important part. They don't seem to get it at all. They are used to the kind of dictators in Africa, For example, to them, Museveni or whoever is in Nigeria or in Ghana is even though it's a democratic person, are more threatening to them. Part of it is a Habesha face that I believe, I always believe so, because in Eritrea we have had a monster, for about 50, 60 years now, from the beginning, from the days of the field up to now, people like Yamane, the guys that are very almost like an angel, the way they talk. They are very soft spoken. They could have eaten a human being in the morning, but you could at lunchtime you meet them. They could impress any diplomat in the West, So to them, the idea of Abiy with that face, with that amiable face, with that smiling face, to have that kind of totalitarian mind is impossible for them to imagine. So for them also, to them also, not only they need a paradigm shift to understand the kind of mind that the Habesha world can produce. This kind of monsters it has been producing for many, eons of time, and this one is a unique one that we have created. And unless the whole problem of that area will be resolved on by getting rid of him. That's what I think.
Well, I mean, you just reminded me of an expression in Tom Gardner's book. He describes Abiy Ahmed as someone with a cherubic smile and trim hairline, and he said that is something that impresses a lot of people. So
Exactly.
there is a lot of meat in what you said in terms of the friendly appearance. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think one interesting point you raised in terms of Tigray is that you do see a silver lining in the split, and that is in
Yeah.
contrast to the received wisdom among the Tigray political commentariat, because the belief is that again, relying on things that I read on social media and articles and all that, the received wisdom is that the split has undermined Tigray in a fundamental. So it's good to hear that you think there is something actually to there is a positive thing in it if people knew how to have to take advantage of it. Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much, Yosef. Today we have zoomed in on Tigray because this is a very important issue, the issue of GDR and how the political dynamic in Tigray is unfolding. But obviously, as everybody knows, a lot of things are happening around Tigray in Eritrea, Somalia, Egypt, Ethiopia, and many people would want you to give them insights on those, because you have very fresh perspectives, very thought out perspectives. I wouldn't say contrarian because that's negative, but original thoughts. So a lot of people want to hear from you. So hopefully you're going to make time for us another time. But for today, we're going to leave it at that.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Yosef.
No problem. Thanks a lot, and don't worry. Anytime. I could come anytime.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.